Sup, guys? I keep calling this show, the NFL and college football shows, the breakdown. That's because I'm going to have a fucking breakdown. Fuck this. I'm Toad. You know what? I can show you what happened today, this 2-5 day, which I think was bullshit for the most part. I'll share my screen and we can just look at this real quick. 1-2 in college basketball. BU was the only one that got there, and they blew a lead and wound up still winning in overtime at the very least. Miami, this game was, they probably should have had the cover in this game, to be honest. They're winning fairly late into the second half, still had the lead, hanging around. It looked like it was going to be a wire-to-wire cover. The game was pretty close, low scoring pretty much the whole way. And then they just faded right at the end, and they went on some, they went like over a minute without scoring, and this is what happened. Miami shot 16% from three-point range in the game and lost the turnover battle by 6, and that did them in. So thanks a lot, Miami. And then UNLV was even worse. I don't have this Kentucky Gonzaga game on right now. This looks like it's actually a good game right now. Maybe I should put it on. Gonzaga basketball. Put the Zags on, baby, because I thought the Zags would cover this one. I don't know if they will. They're up 3 late in the game right now. UNLV, Creighton, this one as well. I needed UNLV to only come within 11.5. The line was down to 10.5. It was actually down to 10, basically, plus 10.5 with heavy juice there. So the line moved in my direction, and this one was just, it looks like it was a blow-up, but look at this fucking shit. Creighton shot 63% from the field and 50% from three-point range. Creighton had 9 more turnovers, and UNLV still couldn't do anything in this game. Just fuck everything. I'm so fucking pissed right now. Yeah, there it was. Creighton, 10 for 20 from three-point range and 31 for 49 from the floor. Oh, yeah. Look at how many more possessions UNLV had in this game. They had 64 shot attempts to Creighton's 49, and they still didn't even cover as a plus 11.5 point underdog. So that's how my day went. When you have that many more possessions in your opposition and you still don't even come within a huge number like that, get fucked, basically. And then college football, I go 0-3 in championship week, so my entire college football season winds up, it's still a good season for me overall, but this fucking pisses me off. And I know we still have playoff and bowls to go, but Penn State absolutely could have and maybe should have gotten there in this game. They were hanging around in this game. They actually outgained Oregon in this game. And they had -2 in turnovers, although one of them, I think, was right at the end of the game. But they outgained Oregon in the game. They didn't cover, so that's just great. And then Louisiana, I don't know what the fuck that was. They didn't even fucking show up in this game. I looked at the game, and Fields wasn't even in their quarterback. So I don't know if he got hurt or what the deal was. He was out of the game, and then Beal was in there, and Beal was 9 for fucking 24. So I think Fields got hurt in the fucking game. So isn't that just great? So my quarterback gets hurt in this game, and then they can't do anything. And the rushing attack never got going either, because at that point they were way behind, and they had to fucking throw the ball with a quarterback who's fucking useless. So this is fucking awesome. And then, the Boston Celtics lost, so I won money on that. Even though my favorite team lost, I won money on the Memphis Grizzlies. So that gave me the 2-5 day. Oh, and the Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, they fucking lost in the fired coach spot, so that's just great. No spark for them, still losing the Winnipeg Jets, although they were actually winning the game 2-1 in the second period, and they still lost and didn't even cover the puck line. So thanks a lot. So I'm now below the break-even point this year for the first time in, weeks at this point, because I was on a fucking hot streak, and now I have to go on another fucking hot streak in the final couple of fucking weeks to even get back into this. You do not know how fucking angry I am right now. I'm so fucking pissed. Get fucked. Nate, what's up, man? The transfer portal, I don't give a shit, really. Handicapping still doesn't really change as far as, this situation is this situation. We're going to talk about NFL here, though. And NFL was my worst pick'em week in history last week. Both of my games lost last week in my NFL bets, or all 3 of them, I should say. But the 2 on Sunday were both complete bullshit losses, as I explained on my Monday show. The Jets and especially the Falcons. The Falcons outgained the Chargers by 300 fucking yards. Chargers get 10 first downs in the entire game, and the Falcons don't win the game. Kirk Cousins should send me a personal check. Fucking asshole. 4 fucking interceptions. Get fucked. You owe me money. Pay me my bet, bitch. It's the Christian thing to do. Let's talk about this slate. I hate this slate, too. I have 2 plays in the NFL, and I absolutely hate what I'm looking at here as far as I don't even know if I want to talk about some of these games because these games are so bad. This is going to be a really short video. I mean, what can I even say about any of these games, really? Like, do I want to talk about Saints-Giants? Not really. I'll just point out that Drew Lock is still in there at quarterback, so I don't know if Tommy DeVito is still hurt or what the deal is, but Giants are going with Drew Lock. He has some experience. He didn't look good on Thanksgiving. He should be maybe a little bit better this week because it is going to be his second game. So usually that you get that first game with that new team out of the way, you're kind of more used to it. You're back in your rhythm, so maybe he'll be a little bit better in this game. Saints defense hasn't exactly been very good this year, so maybe we'll see a better performance out of Drew Lock here. But Saints are up from 3.5 to 5, 78% of the tickets, 73% of the cash. So it does look like the cash percentage is lesser on the Saints, even though the lines moved up a little bit. Do I want to lay these points with the Saints? Hell no, I do not. But I don't really want to come in and play the Giants either. I mean, the Giants, they do have the extra rest at the very least, and Drew Lock, like I said, should have maybe a little bit of a better game with this being his second game starting for them. So that's what the Giants have going for them. So debatably, I guess maybe you could say it's a slightly better spot because maybe that extra time off is going to help them do something. But they're also a dead team. So you have to try to gauge, are the Giants even actually going to be motivated to show up for this game? And I'm not 100% sure that they will be. So I can't come in and take the points with these guys. The Saints, I mean, the Saints are, I mean, I think they're technically still alive in this division because this division sucks so much ass. The NFC South, the Saints are sitting at 4-8, and they're still 2 games back of the lead. So they're actually still not dead in this division. So the Saints may actually show up for this. They're coming up kind of a tough loss to the Rams, whatever, but it's arguable that the Saints actually have more reason to show up in this game than the Giants do. So I'm not going to play it. And then Jags-Titans, I will just say that the Jaguars are in an injured player theory spot again because Trevor Lawrence is hurt. What else is new? He got hurt again last week. I think it was kind of a cheap hit where he slid and he got hit, I believe, after the slide, if I remember correctly. I think I saw the play up against the Houston Texans there. I think it was kind of a cheap hit. Trevor Lawrence, his career might be over, man. It sucks because he looked like he was getting it going. It looked like he was going to maybe become a pretty good quarterback and totally derailed with that collarbone injury last year. He comes into this season, he gets injured again, comes back, and now he's injured yet again. 3 different injuries in the span of less than 1 entire season. I mean, it's just crazy. So he is out, and Mac Jones is back in for the Jaguars here. Tennessee's up from 3 to 3.5, basically. 80% of the tickets, 70% of the cash. Tennessee is public, but do you really want to come in here and take the Jacksonville Jaguars with Mac Jones at quarterback and try to hope that Mac Jones doesn't turn the ball over repeatedly? No, I mean, I don't think you do, although the Titans have Will Levis at quarterback still, and we know he is turnover prone, although he's been a little bit better recently, so maybe he's turning it on a little bit. So this game, I don't even know what I want to say about this game. I mean, it's a reverse injured player theory spot technically for the Jaguars, but because the Jaguars, like, it's Trevor Lawrence is in and out of the lineup so often. Like, are they really going to even step it up at this point to accommodate for his injury? Because I mean, he's been injured so much. He was injured until like a couple weeks ago, basically, and then he finally came back. I think he came back in this game against Houston, I think last week was the reverse injured player theory spot, and he got hurt again. So now they're in the injured player theory spot again. So do you really want to come in and play the Jags? Are they really going to step it up after that? I'm not sure that they will. And they had a pretty big performance last week, actually, staying in this game against Houston. I mean, Houston, obviously, their big divisional rival here, even though I know this is another division rival in Tennessee, but Houston is the team atop the division there, and the Jags were getting their asses kicked in this game. They were down 23-6 with 7 whatever minutes left here, so they probably should have lost by more than what they did, and I think Houston kind of let up a little bit, and the Jags got back-to-back touchdowns at the end there, and Yay for the Jags coach. They're going for a 2-point conversion on touchdown number 1, by the way. That's the right move. That's what you do when you're down multiple scores like that. It's the statistical right thing to do, and statistically, I should say, and like situation, like emotion-wise, you want to go for the 2-point conversion earlier when you're down multiple scores late, because the pressure is a little bit less there, because you still know if you don't get it, you still have that next score to try to get it, and you're still down by the same amount of scores. Like, it really happens when you're down 14. So Penn State, James Franklin did the correct thing a little while ago earlier. I'm trying to look over and check, because I realize I still have this Gonzaga game on. I kind of want to see what's happening in this game. I'm missing exciting action, man. And in this case, it's not porn. It is sports porn, though. I don't know what's going on in this game right now, but what I was going to say is that James Franklin, this game is in overtime. Now we're going to overtime, baby. So if you put on, I believe this is ESPN2, if you guys want to have this on and watch it and react to it while I got it off to the side, I'll see your reactions in the chat. I want to change my setup so that I have like cool stuff behind me, and I'm still looking at my TV like in front of me, and hope the glow isn't like fucking up like my lighting or something. That's kind of what I want to do, but we'll see what I can do, shifting things around here. But James Franklin, because this video I don't think is going to be very long, we'll just talk about this 14-point going for 2-point conversion thing here. James Franklin did it earlier tonight. I know they missed the 2-point conversion, but he got a touchdown when they were down 14 that got them to within 8. So you kick the extra point, you're down 7. But with not that much time left in the game, statistically, you were supposed to go for the 2-point conversion there, because if you consider it to be like a 50-50 shot to get the 2-point conversion, statistically, doing that, if you don't get it, you're still just down by 1 score. Theoretically, the next time you get the ball back and score again, assuming that you do get the ball back and score again, and you don't give up another possession or give up another score to the other team, which of course they did. But I mean, that's something you have to do anyway, regardless of whether you go for 2 or go for 1 there. So that's kind of irrelevant as far as this is concerned. But I think the pressure is off a little bit more going for the 2-point conversion on that earlier touchdown, because you know that if you don't get it, you still have the chance to get it the next time. If you do get it, then on your next touchdown, you're playing to win the game, and you will avoid overtime. And avoiding overtime takes this whole other like probability like part of the equation out of play, where that overtime is going to be only like a 50% shot for you. And if you're the lesser team, it's even less so. So you remove that from the equation, and by getting that first 2-point conversion, you actually, at that point, then have a way better chance to win, because all you need to do is kick the extra point the next time. So if you assume that the other team doesn't score again and that you do get that second score, going for the 2-point conversion the first time gives you a nearly like 60% chance to win the game, and not going for it, it's like, I believe it's less than 50%. So that's what you're looking at there, or maybe it's right around 50. So you can go watch videos on it. It's not only a statistical advantage, because I know I battle with the math guys who only do handicapping based on math, and I always say you got to look at like the people aspect of this. You got to see how humans react to different situations. It's the Austrian way of looking at it, which I've done this for my entire career betting, basically, and it just so happens that then I got into libertarian crap after that and realized, holy crap, Austrian economics is like basically situational handicapping, and it was what I was doing anyway, so it just clicked with me. It just makes sense. So I fight with the math guys on that, who treat these teams basically just like they're robots. But in this case, going for the 2-point conversion the first time isn't just a robotic thing. It's not just a math equation, where I think that you actually have the pressure the least on you with that first 2-point attempt, because you don't need to get it, if that makes sense. And if you do get it, you're in a way better emotional standpoint, because I think it motivates you more, like, holy shit, we can get the ball back and win with an extra point now. So, you know, Nate, I'm sober, sir. JP from Grandma's Boy. Yeah, man. Is JP the main guy in it? Alan Covert there. Alan Covert. I think he might follow me on Twitter. I interact with him sometimes. I interact with the dude from Grandma's Boy, baby. He is one of us politically. He's at least like a political conservative. He's on that side of the spectrum, which is pretty cool. All right. Back to what I was talking about here. Yeah, the Jaguars came really close to the Texans, man. So I think they might be in a little bit of a hangover spot after that. So I don't want to try to jump into the Jaguars for that reason. And Tennessee got their asses handed to them last week in a game where I thought they would maybe put in a better performance against the Washington Redskins, bring back the name. So Tennessee got kind of murdered in that game. So it may be a spot where Tennessee is in the better bounce back spot here than Jacksonville is. So I do not want to come in and try to fade the public sentiment in that one. Oh, the crazy computer says, oh yeah, JP, of course. He's, I forget that actor's name. Yeah, of course I know JP. Yeah, he's the, what is that actor's name, man? It's going to piss me off now. He's in Dodgeball. He's got the slick back hair. I want to say it's like Owen something, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, that guy. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. The asshole nerd game tester dude who has his own room there with the ridiculous setup. Yeah, I should become like that. I'll be an evil supervillain sports bettor. Yeah, Joel David Moore. I don't know why I thought it was Owen. Yes, correct. Joel David Moore. Yeah, that guy. What else is he in? I know I've seen him in a few other things too. He seems to just show up in kind of random like offbeat comedies. All right. Let's talk about one of my plays, because fuck it. I got one play in the 1 p.m. slate, one play in the 4 p.m. slates, and I will talk about the night games. I know I usually wait until the end to talk about my plays, but fuck it. I'll give you one right off the bat in the 1 p.m. slate. Tampa Bay Buccaneers -6.5 is a play. I think it looks like it's getting close to 7 here, so you would have to grab the 6.5 if you can find it, because obviously 7 is a key number in football, because that's the touchdown. So if they win by exactly a touchdown, you'd prefer to win rather than push the bet. It looks like they were at 7.5 at some point. It came down into the 6.5 range, and now it looks like it's going back towards 7, because Tampa Bay is public, 83% of the tickets, but 87% of the cash on them, and I think probably you got to get this 6.5 before it disappears, because I do think this is probably going to wind up back in the 7.5 range, because the public and it looks like the actual money are both coming in on the Tampa Bay side if the professional bettors see what I see here. Do you see what I see? So what I see is that I'm trying to get my singing voice back, by the way, which is why I haven't done ukulele covers recently, except for You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, because I can only do low notes right now. My voice has been dead because I've been sick for like 2 fucking weeks. So that's another great situation that I'm in on top of this. What's not a great situation is the Las Vegas Raiders here. We know what they're coming off of, man. They're coming off of 2 straight divisional matchups. Denver, which that game was a little bit closer than that final looked like, as they had a chance to at least get back within the number at the end. They're getting down to the 1-inch line and not getting in. And then what did they do last week? They went to Arrowhead, and it was on Black Friday, on that isolated game on Black Friday. And we know exactly what happened in this game. They had the lead in the final minutes of the game, really, in the final quarter at the very least. They gave up a field goal, and then the Raiders got basically into field goal range at the very least at the end of the game, and the refs took the game away from them. You can go back and watch my rant about it. It was one of the most blatant, rigged calls that I've ever seen, like one of the most blatant examples of it, where the Raiders rushed up to the line. They weren't set. A couple of their wide receivers weren't set. They snapped the ball before the receivers were set, so that should be illegal procedure, 5-yard penalty, dead ball, replay the down, and the top umpire for the refs came in and signaled exactly that, illegal procedure, which, you know, is either a false start, illegal, it should have been illegal formation. Technically should have been the correct penalty call there, which is the same thing. It's an illegal procedure, 5-yard penalty, dead ball, but the Raiders happen to also snap the ball, even though the play had actually been whistled dead by the top umpire as well, so the play really definitely shouldn't have counted because the refs had already called it that. But they did lose the football. Kansas City jumped on it and claimed that they had recovered a fumble. No ref even signaled that it was a fumble, or that, of course, that Kansas City had recovered it. There was no signal of that at all. And what happens? Oh, yeah, the refs get together, and I think they just schemed right in front of us. They're just standing there for like a minute, maybe more than a minute, right in front of us on Amazon Prime there, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, it's an illegal shift, because that means that the play actually counts, and the Raiders have recovered the fumble, and the Chiefs, have recovered the fumble. That means that the Raiders don't get to attempt the field goal now, which there's no guarantee that Carlson was going to get that field goal. He missed 3 field goals in the game, 3 field goal attempts, but still, it was at least a makeable field goal, and they should have had the attempt to try to win the game. But the refs, they literally got together and tried to figure out what can we change the call to? What penalty can we call where we can pull the wool over everybody's eyes and it will actually give Kansas City the fucking ball? That's what they did. Illegal shift is bullshit. There was no shift at all. Nobody had ever signaled that. Nobody had ever signaled a fumble. I can't stand it, man. The shit is just rigged. But back to this. If you're the Raiders, how do you get back up off the mat after that? You're a dead team. You're sitting at 2-10. Like, what games are you going to get up for if you're the Raiders? You're going to get up for a game against the Kansas City Chiefs, which they did. It was on an isolated game on Black Friday, so everybody was watching it. That was home on Black Friday, so it was one of those isolated spotlight games, Black Friday afternoon. You step up your game against the team that's dominated your division for so long. The Raiders came super close to winning that game, and to have it pulled away from you by the refs like that, and now you have to go to the East Coast on a second straight road game. You just played in Arrowhead, and now you're going down to Tampa Bay for a second straight road game. You really think the Raiders are going to be up for that? And then next week, by the way, they do play on Monday night against Atlanta, so like I tend to say, when teams are dead, the games that they really get up for, if they have any left, they're going to get up for during the rest of the season are divisional games and spotlight games. And that Kansas City game was both. This Tampa Bay game is neither, and it's a road out-of-conference game, which means even less to a team usually. And Atlanta is a primetime game, so they may be looking ahead to that and may actually get up for that game more than they'll get up for this game. I think it's a bad spot for the Raiders, even though, yes, I know they have extra rest because they played on Friday, but I don't think it matters. I think they're just kind of sitting mired in the way they lost to Kansas City there. And on the Tampa Bay side, they played a second straight road game last week, and I think they'd come out of bye the week before that facing the Giants, and they destroyed the Giants. They went down to Carolina, and they almost lost this game, man. They basically maybe should have lost this game. Excuse me. You look at the way that this game went in the final couple minutes of the game. Carolina took the lead back with a touchdown with 30 seconds left. Tampa got a 51-yard field goal just to send it into overtime on the last play of regulation, and then won it in overtime with only 2 minutes and 50 seconds left in overtime. So the Carolina Panthers almost beat the Buccaneers here. So the Bucs, they know that they got away with one there, man. When you play poorly against a bad team like Tampa Bay just did, although I know Carolina's starting to play better recently, which I'll talk about in a minute because I'll talk about their game as well. Tampa Bay coming out of that, I think they're going to be focused on this game, man, because you almost lose to Carolina. You're going to show up focused in your next game. And not only that, but look at what's going on in their division, the NFC South. They're sitting with the same record as the Atlanta Falcons, and they don't have the tiebreaker because Atlanta beat them twice, but Tampa is still trying to win this division, man. They can still win the division. They can still get into the playoffs. They got something to play for here, so give me Tampa Bay for all those reasons, minus the points. Even if you wanted to lay 7 on this, I don't know if I would mind that much. If it gets up to 7.5, maybe like find a teaser to include them in, like drop them down to like 1.5 and tease it with something else. Do the little bit of the tease there. So either way, but I like Tampa in that game, man. The fix is definitely in for the Chiefs and maybe for the Lions, but I like the Lions a lot more than I like the Chiefs, man. I mean, I hate Travis Kelce and his Pfizer bullshit. I actually like Andy Reid, and I don't really necessarily hate Mahomes. I mean, I just think he's kind of annoying and just seems to be too, like, overconfident for what he really is. But I like Harrison Butker, of course, with his speech that everybody got pissed about religion and tradition at that Christian college. I like that guy quite a bit. So I don't hate everything about the Chiefs, but of course I hate the way that they're rigging games like this and they're barely winning every single game. It's very reminiscent of the New England Patriots team that everybody hated, me included, even though I'm from New England. I couldn't fucking stand that shit because it's just, you know what's going on here, man. The fix is in. Mahomes, yeah, he's a Christian as well. I do appreciate that as well. Travis Kelce certainly is not. And then, what else was I going to say? I don't know if I had anything else to say about this. But Tampa Bay, I mean, I do like them in that game there. Oh, I was going to say, I like the Lions, though. I mean, the Lions, they kind of seem like a blue-collar type of team to me. I don't like, the rigging aspect of this. And yes, I've seen a couple of calls go their way, like in that Houston game where I had Houston. I probably should have gotten the Houston money line, although they did still cover for me in that game. But there was like a pass interference non-call, I believe, that ended one of Houston's drives near the end, where it should have been pass interference on Detroit, like blatantly, and it wasn't called. So there is shit like that going on as well. But I'm not going to be an unhappy man if Detroit winds up winning the Super Bowl, though. I'll put it that way, because I like Dan Campbell. So I kind of like what they got going on there. I like the way they play football. I like their rushing attack. I used to not like Jared Goff. Just, I don't know. I thought he was kind of a California douche, and I thought he was overrated. But I have more respect for the Goff man now. Waiting for Goff, man. 6 or 7 non-calls in the Packer game. The only one that I saw, because I didn't really see the game, I saw the very end. It looked like Goff was down on the ground with his knee down, and I guess they didn't call him down or something like that, and that gave them like an extra set of downs or something like that. You can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but Downs syndrome right there. Just out. You got Philly, Tampa, Buffalo, and Cincinnati. I don't like it. I will just point out, I'm going to talk about all of the rest of those games because Cincinnati's Monday night, so I always play it. I'm playing against one of those teams, and it's not Tampa because I'm going to play on Tampa. And Philly, I don't like either, and I'm going to talk about that game, I guess, in a second. Well, I'll talk about Browns-Steelers first, I guess, because this is a big AFC North matchup, I guess. I don't want to take too long here. I'm almost at a half hour. But we do have a short week this week, by the way. Week 14, 6 teams are on byes, which I forgot to point that out. We always got teams that are on byes here. Baltimore, Denver, Houston, Indy, New England, and Washington are all on byes this week. So tons and tons of teams on byes. And I don't know which teams are even on byes last week. Were there any byes? There might have been like 2 teams on byes last week. Maybe there weren't because it was Thanksgiving week. There might have been nobody on bye last week. Maybe that's the case. Because I think ESPN actually shows it. Yes, I think there were no byes last week. And this week there were 6 byes. And then there were no byes again after this week, I believe. So no byes after this. Only straights from week 15 onward, I believe. Browns, Steelers. Steelers are up from 6.5 to 7. So taking a look at that, we know these teams just played in Cleveland a little while ago. And it was Steelers 3.5. So that would indicate that this line should probably actually be somewhere closer to the vicinity of 9. So maybe it looks like the Steelers are. Well, I wouldn't say that the Steelers are being underpriced here. I think they were really overpriced in the game against the Browns because I came in and I played the Browns in that game and they won outright. And it was really more about the spot, but it was somewhat to do with the number as well. So I don't want to say this line is really short. I mean, they are still laying a touchdown here, and they're public. 71% of the tickets, 62% of the cash on the Steelers. Total has gone up from 40.5 to 43.5. I think with 79% of tickets, 60% of the cash. But I think maybe the sentiment here is that I think maybe that's legitimate movement on the over because I think maybe the sentiment is, well, that last game they played was lower scoring because it was in the snow. And now this game is not going to be. That game went over, by the way. It did not go over this total. But the total, I mentioned that snow total. I thought the total was too low. I thought it was an overreaction to the weather. And it did wind up going over the total by a little bit. And it's still a low total, though. So it looks like maybe they're expecting this game to be a little bit higher scoring because this game is not going to be in snow as far as I know. So we'll see about that. But this is an interesting one, man, because you got Cleveland. I don't like the spot that they're in, man. I mean, Pittsburgh may be focused because Pittsburgh knows that Cleveland just beat them. So that may be one reason for Pittsburgh to actually show up here because they did lose at Cleveland. And that was like Cleveland's Super Bowl, basically. But then Cleveland stepped it up again because they were playing primetime Monday night. And we all saw that game. That was an insane game. Unbelievably high scoring. Both teams score after score. Just craziness going on in that game. And they wound up losing that game on Monday night. And when you put in back-to-back huge efforts like that on primetime games, nonetheless, like Cleveland, and now it's a second straight road game for them coming back out of elevation, although I know it is against the Steelers, and so that's a venue they're familiar with playing. And, of course, Cleveland's not going to overlook the team that's in first place in their division and seems to always be one of the top teams in the division. So I don't think that's going to be the case, but it might be a case where Cleveland just doesn't have a whole lot left in the tank. They do have Kansas City up next, so I don't think they're going to be looking ahead to Kansas City. I think if they wanted to, I think I mean, I think they do still want to beat the Steelers again, but it's just a matter of can they actually do it in a spot like this, and I'm not sure that they can. Pittsburgh's coming off a nice divisional win as well against Cincinnati, although I think that's a little bit of an easier game. Cincinnati does not play physical defense now, man. And Pittsburgh was coming off that bad loss to Cleveland, so they bounced back. And now I think Pittsburgh possibly wants to get Cleveland back. They may actually be focused in this game, but then again, they do have Philadelphia and Baltimore up next, and those are both huge games. This is a jammed schedule for Pittsburgh, man. They got Kansas City and then Cincinnati going to finish the season. I mentioned a while ago that the late season schedule for Pittsburgh is brutal, man. It is brutal. So take from that what you will, but this is actually the least of all the games remaining on Pittsburgh's schedule, even though I know Cleveland did beat them once already. So I don't want to get involved in this game. Very hard to read. Both teams have potential reasons to show up, but also potential reasons why they won't play a good game in this game. But I mean, Philly's a big game for Pittsburgh because that's the cross-state rivalry game. Obviously, Baltimore, KC, those are huge games. Cincinnati may not be as big of a game that we thought it would by the time, may not be as big as we thought it was going to be by the time we get to it, but I'm not going to play that game. Now I'll talk about the Eagles here for you. Eagles-Panthers. Eagles are up from 13 to 13.5. 80% of tickets, 85% of the cash on the Eagles. Just out, you're parlaying the Eagles, which I know the Eagles are going to be a giant money line favorite. I mean, I highly doubt that they actually lose the game, but I would not want to play them on the spread at the very least. I don't think. I mean, I think Philadelphia is in a pretty bad spot here where they could overlook Carolina because Carolina sucks. Look at what Philadelphia's been doing, man. I mean, they're coming off so many big games in a row. I mean, they beat Dallas, even though I know that was without Dak, but that's still the Dallas Cowboys. Those two teams hate each other. They're division rivals. They beat their ass in Dallas. Then they turned around on Thursday night and they beat the Washington Redskins, who was the only team threatening them in the division, and they beat them on primetime. Then they went out to the Pacific Coast, which I thought was a bad spot, sandwich spot. I played the Rams in this one. They went out there, Pacific Coast, late night, bad biological clock time on that one, prime time again, and they won that game too. Then they came back and faced Baltimore in that big game that a lot of people were hailing as a potential Super Bowl preview, whatever, and they beat Baltimore as well. Another huge win. So now coming off of that, would I really want to have anything to do with the Philadelphia Eagles here? Certainly not laying points. I mean, I don't really think they're going to lose the game outright, but there's no way I'm going to lay the points here in this one. And who do they have up next? They got the Pittsburgh Steelers, as I just mentioned. That could be a look-ahead spot because Steelers, they're winning games, and that's a big Pennsylvania rivalry, man. That's a big game. And then they got the rematch against the Washington Redskins. That's going to be a pretty big game, too. Dallas usually is just kind of a big game, even though Dallas sucks this year, just because, again, it's a rivalry. Those two teams hate each other. So I think every game remaining here, except for maybe the final game against the Giants, is a bigger game than this game against Carolina. So I think the Eagles might just try to get in and get out of this game and not get hurt. I mean, I don't think they give a shit about this game. Carolina, though, I don't really want to come in and play them either. I mean, I considered grabbing the points with Carolina here, but they're coming off 2 straight games where they really stepped it up. They came within 3 points of Kansas City, which would have been a massive upset as a double-digit underdog, I believe. That was a huge performance from them. And they came off of that, and they put in another huge performance, almost beating the division champs from last year of the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, almost beating them. Big divisional game there, another big win, and losing that game right at the end on a late field goal and then losing on an overtime field goal. So I don't want anything to do with the Carolina Panthers either in this game. Both teams are in bad spots. Yes, I do think the Eagles will win this game. I mean, they're a huge favorite. They're obviously the way better team, but weird things can happen, man. And I think that I do not want to have my money on a team that isn't going to give a shit about the game. And I can see reasons why the Eagles will not give a shit about this game. For the Panthers, I think they will, but it's just a matter of are the Panthers going to have no energy left in the tank after games like that. So that's what my concern would be in that one. Seahawks Cardinals, big game. I'll talk about that because we got playoff implications here. And it's a rematch from 2 weeks ago. Cardinals sitting at 2.5, up to 2.5 with juice, 64% of tickets and cash on the Cardinals. I think that I would probably lean to the Cardinals side in this one. I know in the other game, actually, I don't remember what the line was in the other game. I know Arizona lost the game and they really looked poor in that game against Seattle, man. I think Arizona was in a bad spot. I think they came out of a bye, if I'm not mistaken, after having a bunch of wins in a row, blowing out the Jets. This is a terrible week to have a bye, and man, I think it really paused Arizona's momentum, and they came out of that and they had a bad offensive game. They couldn't do anything on the ground against Seattle. Just bad game for them. And the line in this game was Arizona was a 1.5 point road favorite in that game, and now they're only a 2.5 point home favorite 2 weeks later against the same team. So what gives? If they're a 1.5 point favorite on the road at Seattle, that would indicate that they should be like somewhere close to like 6 in this game. And I know the odds makers can't put the line at 6 because they just get hammered on the Seattle side. But, I mean, I think this line is probably shortchanging the Cardinals. It's quick revenge from 2 weeks ago. Arizona, I know they played a tough game up in Minnesota. They had the game won, and they blew it. So I don't really want to play Arizona coming out of that game. That was a big performance for them as well. But I think they're going to show up for this game. Arizona needs this game a little bit more than Seattle does because Arizona's sitting at 1 game behind them in this division here. The NFC West, where every team is still alive, still a cluster here. But Seattle, because they got that first game, they're 1 game ahead, and they're really 2 games ahead because they have the tiebreaker against Arizona right now. So Arizona needs this game more to negate that tiebreaker, man. So I think Arizona's in the better motivational spot for that reason at the very least. Seattle, I mean, they're playing a second straight road game and third road game in 4 weeks. So they went into San Francisco, won that game. They beat Arizona at home, back up in the Pacific Northwest, and then they had to travel cross-country. And again, this is a game where I played the Jets. I thought it was a terrible spot for Seattle coming into this, and the Jets should have won this game. I mean, they're winning the game basically the whole way. They completely blew it when the Jets were, I believe, about to go in potentially to pull ahead 28-7, and they look at that. They were up 21-7, and they were in at the Seattle 12-yard line, and they threw a pick six the other way. Just completely threw the entire momentum of the game away in that game. Absolute bullshit. And the Jets never even scored again in the game. Just unbelievable. The Jets threw the game away like that and threw all their momentum away. So, that game for Seattle wasn't a great game for them. Wasn't as good as it looked. So I do like Arizona in this game a little bit. I think Arizona's got a little bit of line value there, and I think they have a little bit of extra motivation there, and they certainly are in the better travel spot with Seattle having to go all the way back out to Arizona again, whereas Arizona, I mean, they went to Minnesota last week, but that's a little bit of a better travel spot at the very least, and they're at least returning back home, although, of course, Seattle is used to playing in Arizona because they do that every year. So take from all of that what you will, man, and then Bears 49ers. The 49ers are down from 6-3 with juice. 53% of the tickets on them and 53% of the cash on the other side on the Bears. So it looks like some actual market indicators coming in on the side of the Chicago Bears. I don't want to do it, but I will say that the Bears, they're in the fired coach spot, man. They fired Matt Everflush is what I like to call him. They ever flushed that guy down the drain, man. He's gone. I don't know who their interim coach is going to be here or who their coach is going to be, but I always say that fired coach can spark the team, man, and I almost always automatically play it. I know I didn't play it on a couple of the NFL ones last year. This one I kind of want to skip it. I think I am going to skip this one, but I do lean to the Bears just because I think the fired coach motivation is pretty strong. And when the fire coach happens, man, as I always say, if the team doesn't like their coach and they're not getting along with their coach, they're not feeling that system, there's just a bad communication issues, whatever's going on there, firing that coach can help in that respect, but it also can help the players will show up in that very next game at the very least because they want to prove that the coach was the problem and that they were not the problem. It's not us. It was the coach. So the players get up and they show up for potentially 2 reasons, and I think it might be both in this game. I don't think the players liked Eberflus there, Eberflus. I think he was a problem. I don't think the players are playing hard for him. I mean, you could see that in that game against the Patriots. You had, Keenan Allen walking off the field. It looked like guys are not really rallying around Caleb Williams either, although they're going to have to get over that hump and rally around him again. But maybe they will because the Bears actually have started playing better again since that game. But the problem is that, yeah, they played better, but what does that mean? After they lost to New England, they played 3 straight huge divisional games against Green Bay, Minnesota, and then at Detroit on Thanksgiving. They lost all 3 by a combined 7 points. That is absolutely brutal, man. So for that reason, I can't do it. I can't play Chicago just because they're off of all those games. I mean, that's true. Caleb Williams paints his nails. He's definitely gay. But I'm just looking at I'm looking at the spots here because that would mean that you should never play Chicago. But I played them in this game against Green Bay, and they covered for me. And talking about that game, that was a huge game for them, man. Chicago had the lead late in that game. They lost right near the end. Green Bay got a field goal to retake the lead, and then Chicago had a game-winning field goal attempt blocked to lose that game. That was a huge game for them. They came off of that, and again, they didn't go away against Minnesota, and they were losing this game badly, 24-10 in the fourth quarter. They came all the way back, and they were also still down 11 with 1:56 left in the game, and they were able to get 2 scoring drives out of that in the last 22 seconds. They scored twice. They must have recovered an onside kick, sent it into overtime, only to still lose again. So 2 games in a row, just absolutely brutal, brutal losses for the Chicago Bears. And then what did they do last week? Oh, yeah, they had another brutal divisional loss against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. Big game, national stage, where Detroit was blowing them out of the building early in this game. Detroit completely outstatted Chicago in this game. The first half was ridiculous, man. The first half was like Detroit 18-2 in first downs or something. Chicago had 2 first downs in the entire first half. Detroit had 300 yards of offense in the first half, completely dominating the game, and it did not translate to points. They were only winning 16-0 going into the second half, so they kind of let Chicago hang around just a little bit, even though Detroit was still winning 23-7, going into the fourth quarter. At which point, you know what happened. The Bears were able to score twice. And here you go. Eberflus, they shouldn't have fired him, man, because he went for the 2-point conversion there when they were down 2 scores. That was the correct move, right? I mean, that was a more obvious move, though, because they were down 16. So you go for 2 in that spot because you can get to within 8 if you do that. So that was for a different reason. So never mind. Fuck him. Fire him. He didn't go for 2 when they were down 14. So, yeah, never mind. But Eberflus, the reason why he wound up getting fired is because Chicago came back in this game. They got themselves back to within 3 in a game where it looked like they were completely dead. And then you guys probably saw what happened if you were watching this game on Thanksgiving. Chicago was in field goal range at the end of this game. They could have potentially tied it and sent it into overtime. And Eberflus, I guess, forgot that he had a timeout left, and he didn't use it and let the clock run out. And all they needed to do was use the timeout, or they could have maybe, I guess, run up to the line and spiked it to get themselves one more play in there, because I think they could have attempted the field goal at that point. I think they were in field goal range at that point, and instead they let the clock run out. And I think maybe the players expected Eberflus to call the last time out, and he didn't do it. I don't get it. But after that, he got fired. So the Bears are in the fired coach spots. They may be fired up for that reason. But like I said, you lose 3 straight games like that, man, against divisional opponents like that, where you could potentially win every single one of them. That is so brutal to be coming off of. And they're coming off of that Detroit game and having to go out to the Pacific Coast where they don't usually play, out to San Francisco. So I can't do it. I just can't do it. I might still lean to the Bears here just because of the fired coach spot, but nope. I can't, man. I can't do it. Because I think they're also in a bad spot. The market does look like it is in agreement with the Bears in this one, though, even though I know the Bears are also 0-5 on the road this year, which is also not good. But, man, I mean, 2 straight road games. They do have extra time off, I know, because they played the early game on Thanksgiving. So the Bears have a long week here. They have an extra week, and the 49ers are actually on a short week. So maybe some of the market movement is because of that, too, because the 49ers, what did they do? They played on Sunday night at Buffalo in the snow. They played 2 straight cold weather road games, and they got obliterated by the Buffalo Bills in that game, man. I thought it was going to be closer than it was. San Francisco, not only did they get obliterated in this game, but Christian McCaffrey went down for the rest of the season, I think, in this game as well. And Jordan Mason, who was their first guy to back up Christian McCaffrey, who was also playing pretty well. He's also out for the season. He's been hurt for a while now, too. So now San Francisco's going to have to go back to Guerendo at running back here. So they lost Christian McCaffrey. Do I think that's going to matter that much as far as they're concerned? I really don't. I don't think it's going to matter that much for San Francisco as far as having their running back. As I always say, this is kind of a plug-and-play running back league, and I know Christian McCaffrey is an elite running back, so you can't really replace him, but I don't think they're going to lose that much as far as their ground game is concerned with Guerendo in there, because a lot of it is about the schemes. He looked fine when he was in there. He's started a couple of games, I think, this season, because McCaffrey's been injured for a lot of it, so Guerendo has been in there. So I don't think that's going to hurt them that much. San Francisco, I know they're on a short week coming off that brutal game against Buffalo, but they got embarrassed, man. That was an embarrassing performance on a national stage. So I think San Francisco might be motivated to bounce back after a performance that's that bad. Even though I know they have the Rams up next. That's a big game because San Francisco is barely hanging on for life here in this division. They could still potentially win this division, but it looks like it's fading fast, man. So that Rams game is going to be pretty big for them, probably bigger than the Chicago game is, but also to stay in contention, they do need wins, and the Bears are kind of probably realizing they're out of it at this point. So I don't know if that means the 49ers are going to have a little bit extra motivation for that reason. And then the other question here is, what's the 49ers quarterback situation? Let me see about the injuries here. I don't know what the situation is. It looks like Brock Purdy is not listed on the injury report here. So is he back? I don't know. That's something we're going to have to look at here. It says he's active, so I guess Purdy is going to be back in this game because he didn't play, right? Oh, no, he did play. What am I saying? He played against Buffalo. Never mind. I thought he was out. I thought it was going to be Brandon Allen again because Brandon Allen played, I think, in the Seattle game. Was it Brandon Allen in that game? I think it was because I think Brock Purdy was out for at least one game, right? No, he played in this game. What am I even thinking of then? Am I going insane? Brock Purdy was injured, wasn't he? I might be completely losing my mind here. I thought he was injured and he missed at least one game. Yeah, I mean, potentially I'm going completely insane here. I don't know. But I thought Brandon Allen was in there for San Francisco in at least one of these games here. Oh, no, I'm looking at Brock Purdy's game log. That's why. I am so stupid. I'm looking at his game log. Of course, he didn't play in the game that he was out, which was, what game was it? I'm so out of it right now, man. Let me look at the 49ers schedule here. Brock Purdy was out for the game against Green Bay. Yes, that's correct. That's what it was. So Purdy was out for that game, but he was back for this Buffalo game. So now that means it's not the reverse injured player spot anymore. I think I talked about this on my show last week. So the reverse injured player spot was this game against Buffalo. Brock Purdy came back in that game. So that means that it's his second game back, and the reverse injured player spot, as I always say, the player has to get kind of back in there and get used to having that rhythm again. The team has to get used to playing with him again, and it was just a bad game, man. I mean, San Francisco, they're not equipped to play in the snow, I don't think. I thought they would do better because of their ground game, but McCaffrey got hurt. It seems like they just can't handle cold weather, but of course they don't have to worry about that in this game because they're back at home. It's going to be Brock Purdy's second game back here, so there are definitely some positives that I see for San Francisco here and reasons why they might show up. So I can't get involved in this game. I see arguments for both sides in this one, so I'm not going to do it. Next up, I'll talk about my other play, and then I'll talk about the 2 night games, and then I'll get out of here. My other play, I told you weren't going to like this one. I think this team is going to win outright. The LA Rams +4. I know it's down to 3.5 now. This one is potentially going to be your parlay breaker there. Who was it just out? Yeah, this is the one that I don't like out of those 4 the most here. I think the Rams could definitely win this game outright here. I'm going to fade Buffalo in this game. Buffalo is very public, 75% of tickets, so it looks like they have 77% of the cash right now, but I expect by game time, this is at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, I expect that we'll see some change there because as far as I know, I think the professionals are going to be all over the Rams in this game. The line's down from 4 to 3.5. I still like it at 3.5. I think the Rams are going to win this game. I think they have all of the reasons to be motivated in this game, and Buffalo really does not have many. So I think it's fine taking the Rams at +3.5 as well. I grabbed a 4 like 1 or 2 days ago. It was the first of these two games that I played. Love the Rams. It's my play of the week here, man. On the Rams, it's some of it is a fade of Buffalo, though, for sure. Buffalo, I mean, look at what they've been doing. They've been rolling along. They've been basically unstoppable, but really, the two I'm not going to say Buffalo's bad. They're not. But the two impressive wins that were in here, I mean, Indy was kind of impressive on the road because that was a bad spot. But they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Huge playoff revenge win for Buffalo. Kansas City's only loss of the season. Always a huge game playing against Kansas City. Huge win for Buffalo in that game. And I think that was that a night game as well? I think it might have been. No, it was a 4:25 p.m. Eastern game. So it wasn't. So they came off of that, and then they looked great on a national stage. Well, actually, they went into a bye after Kansas City. They came out of that bye, and they looked awesome on a national stage, man. Obliterating the 49ers. And I think the public still thinks the 49ers are a good team. I mean, if they're healthy, they're certainly pretty good, but they just haven't had it together. They haven't been healthy all year. They've been cursed. It's the Super Bowl loser curse, kind of like Philadelphia. Was it last year that Philadelphia was cursed? I think so, because they lost the Super Bowl the year before that. Philadelphia had so many injuries down the stretch and just completely collapsed. So San Francisco looks like they're in the cursed season this year, man. Buffalo absolutely crushed them. People saw that game, primetime game. You look really good on a national stage. And now what do they have to do? Oh, yeah, they have to turn around on a short week, and they have to go to the Pacific Coast and play the LA Rams. And it's a 4:25 Eastern. I'd like the Rams even better if this is a primetime game, because it would mean the biological clock phenomenon would really be there, and Buffalo would really be playing at a late time based on their biological clock. At least in this case, they'll only be playing until like about 7:30 Eastern, but I still think it's not a good spot. Oh, and what else happened, by the way, with Buffalo winning that game against San Francisco? They clinched the AFC East with 5 games left to go, which is one of the earliest division clinchers that has ever happened, I think, in the NFL. Yeah, I think ever. So it was like a historical win for that reason. So Buffalo has now clinched the division. Buffalo does not have a whole lot to play for, man, in this game. And who do they have up next? Oh, yeah, this is also a sandwich spot because they're coming off that huge win, and they have the Detroit Lions up next, which is going to be their biggest remaining game. I mean, they have New England and the Jets left in the remaining 3 games. I mean, yeah, okay. What game are they going to be focused on in the remainder of the season? Yeah, it's going to be the Detroit Lions. So this is a sandwich spot. I mean, that's like a Super Bowl preview type of game. Yeah, good luck with that. Allen's on a mission. I don't give a shit. That's not a thing. Like, you can be on a mission as much as you want. They just clinched the division. I mean, what they have to play for maybe is having the 1 seed, which even that's probably not going to matter that much. This is a horrible spot for them. They just clinched the division. They really do not have a whole lot to play for. They have a lot of games left. I don't think so. You're not at 100% effort every single fucking week. And after 2 huge wins like that, not going to happen. LA Rams, by the way, they're going to be motivated here because they're sitting at 6-6, and they're in this clusterfuck of a division in the NFC West. They're coming off a win where, yeah, they went to New Orleans and won. I mean, that's a fine win, sort of, but not really, because they didn't even play that well in this game, really. And they beat a New Orleans team that's kind of sucked ass this year, even though I know New Orleans is kind of getting some of their players back now. Some of the guys that were hurt, although they lost Taysom Hill in this game. My fantasy tight end for a couple of weeks, who put up that huge performance for me. He's now gone, so that's great. The New Orleans actually had this game tied in the 4th quarter. So the Rams, I think the Rams kind of escaped in this game, and I don't think the Rams really put in a full effort in that one. I mean, look at the situation the Rams were in that game. They came off that performance where they had to step it up on, I think it was a Sunday night game against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a big game, and they got their asses handed to them, but still in a big game on Sunday night. And they had Buffalo and San Francisco up after this game. So I think it was not really the greatest spot for the Rams, and they still won the game. I think the Rams are absolutely going to be focused here with Buffalo coming into their place and the Rams needing wins to try to battle in this division here. Huge game for the Rams. The Rams have these pieces back, man. I know their defense does suck, but they got Puka Nacua back. They got Cooper Kupp back. They're healthy. Their offense is at least clicking right now, even though their defense hasn't been very good. But against Buffalo, I mean, if Buffalo's just in a situation where they kind of want to get in, get out in that spot coming off that giant win like that. I don't see it. Buffalo, I mean, I think Buffalo looks a little bit better than they actually are. I mean, Buffalo has been thriving off of turnovers, man. I think they have a plus 16 turnover differential or something like that. They have the biggest turnover differential on the season, so that means that their final score outcomes are a little bit better than they should be with that massive turnover differential. And the Rams have been good at protecting the ball recently, so you could see maybe the Rams will come away with the turnover edge in this game, and that may help them as well. Because if Buffalo's going to come into a game and not be focused for once, they could have like a slip in focus there and could wind up actually having a couple of turnovers for once. So I think you might see that in this game too. They're not used to playing out there in this stadium. This is the play of the week. Give me the LA Rams plus the points. I don't care what you guys think. Rams are the right side in this game. I don't even care if it fucking wins or not. They're still the right side. Bills, 1 seed, doesn't matter, dude. You're not focused on the 1 seed with 5 games left on the season when you just fucking clinched the division as early as possible and you had a massive celebration in the snow and you beat the Kansas City Chiefs the week before that. Doesn't matter. You're not at max effort every single game. These guys are humans. I'm working for the bookmakers, even though I'm trying to beat the bookmakers. Yeah, good luck with that. Even if Allen puts up a decent performance in this game, I still don't think they're going to win the game. Give me the Rams. The situation is screaming to play the Rams in this one. Then I'll finish this with Chargers-Chiefs as the Sunday night game. Chiefs, and this was not flex. This was originally the Sunday night game, and it was left as the Sunday night game. And it's a decent game for a Sunday night game. Chiefs down from 4.5 to 4 with juice, but they got 54% of the cash on them, 53% of the tickets on the Chargers. And as I alluded to when I mentioned this game the other night, I lean to the Chiefs in this one, which is where the cash is coming in. I think the line, it doesn't look high enough, man. I mean, the Chiefs were a 7-point favorite on the road earlier this season against the Chargers. And I know the Chargers, we didn't think they were that good back then. I know Justin Herbert was like playing injured for a bit back then. So yeah, the Chiefs were probably favored by too much in that game. They only won the game by 7 because the Chiefs basically don't win any game by more than 7. I know. But even so, if the Chiefs were a 7-point road favorite, that would indicate they should be a 13-point favorite in this game at home, which obviously they should not be. As I said, that 7 was huge, but 4, really? Like, you're telling me the Chiefs are only 1 point better than the Chargers? I'm not buying it, and the public doesn't even seem to be on the Chiefs this time. The public actually seems to be slightly on the Chargers here for whatever reason. They seem like a public underdog here. I think because maybe the public is saying, well, the Chargers play them tough already at home, and the Chiefs didn't look good when we saw them on Black Friday. I think the public is kind of onto the Chiefs not playing well recently and playing like ass. And the Chargers have looked pretty good. But, I mean, look at the Chargers last week. I know I lost playing the Falcons last week. This game was absolute garbage, dude. The Chargers were complete fucking garbage in this game. They put up 187 yards of total offense and 10 first downs in this game and only had 24 minutes of possession. They got absolutely annihilated statistically in this game, and I still didn't win on the fucking Falcons. This is a terrible spot for the Chargers, and Kirk Cousins had to just throw the ball to the Chargers every single time. The Chargers got away with a horrendous performance in this game. They didn't even deserve to put up like any points in this game, to be honest. Chargers, horrible game in that game. And now, yes, this is a second straight road game for the Chargers now. And coming into that game, they were coming off big primetime games. Win over Cincinnati, where I bet the Chargers in that one, and then a win over Baltimore. So they were coming off 2 huge games there. They had this game where they played like ass, so maybe they know that, and they want to bounce back from that, but still, I just don't see it. I mean, even if both teams show up in this game, I don't think the Chargers are as good as maybe they look at this point, even though I know I made arguments for playing the Chargers against Cincinnati. But, like, who have the Chargers beaten? Like, Kansas City is going to be the best defense they faced so far this year, probably, right? I know they faced Kansas City already, but look at the best defenses the Chargers have faced are Pittsburgh, they lost. Kansas City, they lost. Denver, yes, I know they won. Cleveland, can you say they have a good defense? I don't know, but Cleveland was in a terrible spot in that game, coming off beating the Ravens. And other than that, the Chargers, their wins are against the Raiders, the Panthers, the Saints, when the Saints were I think injury obliterated. The Browns, and I think that was before the Browns switched to Jameis Winston. Tennessee, and then Cincinnati, who has a complete ass defense. Their defense is so bad that Joe Burrow has a 30-5 touchdown interception ratio, and Cincinnati's still sitting at 4-8 because their defense is like abysmal, like historically bad. And Cincinnati was in a terrible spot in that game too, and the Chargers beat them, and basically all of the good teams, and they beat the Falcons, but fuck the Falcons, they suck. The Chargers, I mean, the teams that they stepped up and they played that were actually good, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, I mean, Denver, they did beat them, like I said, but other than that, Arizona is decent, I guess, and Baltimore, basically anytime they step up in class, they lose the fucking game. And now they're going to have to go to Arrowhead, and Kansas City really isn't laying that many points. And looking at Kansas City, as my cord falls down here, the other side of this equation is that Kansas City has played like total shit the last couple of weeks. They came off that loss to Buffalo, and they almost lost to Carolina the next week. Obviously, a team they should easily beat, and they almost lost. And then they almost lost last week. And like I said, the refs handed them the game against the Raiders here. So we're the Chiefs looking ahead to this game against the Chargers and not caring about the Raiders? Possibly. Even though it was a Black Friday game, it's not really a primetime game, although it is an isolated kind of spotlight game. But that means that everybody saw it. So everybody saw the Chiefs looking terrible in the last couple of games, and they see that the Chiefs have not won by a margin like this since back against Tampa Bay. And even back then, they still didn't win by that much. They haven't beaten anybody by that much on the season. Yes, I realize that. The Chiefs don't win by margin. They play good defense. They don't screw up, basically, and that's basically it. And they get handed games by refs, I know. But they're only laying 4 in this game, and I think they're in a bounce-back spot because they looked like such crap against the Raiders, and they have extra rest off of that pretty bad performance because that was on Friday. So I think they're going to bounce back from that, man, with extra rest. I think they're going to show up focused in this game. So I like the Chiefs in that game. I'm not playing it, but that would be the way I would look there. And then Bengals-Cowboys to finish this off. A great Monday night performance. Great Monday night game that we're going to get here. Oh, and Chargers-Chiefs, by the way, total is down from 44.5 to 43. Juiced to the under. 69% of tickets and 50% of the cash on the over. I don't see why the public is even coming in on the over in that one. I mean, it's not like either team has been putting up huge point totals. That's not what they do. So, I mean, I would probably agree with where the line has moved there and agree with going towards the under in that one. I mean, the Chargers do, they maintain possession for long periods of time. They play slow. They run the clock down. Both teams like to run the ball first. Both teams kind of play more defense. So I think the Chargers' defense is actually maybe not as good as we think they are because they play that possession game where it keeps their defense off the field so much. And I think it helps their defense to not get totally exposed and helps keep their defense rested. Whereas the Chiefs actually do have a good defense. So the under makes sense in that game as well. But I think the Chiefs are also the better team on both sides of the ball, but especially defensively. So those are my feelings there. And then Bengals-Cowboys. Bengals are down from 6.5 to 5.5. 59% of tickets and 78% of the cash, though, on Cincinnati. So it looks like they have the cash percentage on them, but I don't agree with it. I would only look to take the points with Dallas in this one. I haven't done it. But as far as the games that are being left off of my card, this one is the closest one to being a play for me, and it would be taking the points with the Dallas Cowboys here. That is the way that I would look in this game. And the total has gone up from 44.5 to 49.5. That total is skyrocketed, man. We've seen huge movement towards the over. 87% of tickets, 55% of the cash on the over. But some of that might be at that higher number. But the key numbers you got to worry about for the totals are 47 and 51. So this thing is not at 51 yet. And I think the over does make sense in this game. I think you're going to see two teams that maybe are not going to bring their most intense defense in this game because both teams are kind of dead teams, even though it is a Monday night game. So especially the hosting team, the Cowboys, are probably going to want to show up for this game. But you might see some offensive tricks get pulled in this game because these teams can really kind of just play loose because they don't have a whole lot to play for. The defenses might not be totally intense, but also both defenses suck. The Bengals, they might be the worst defense in the entire league. Cowboys, also not a good defense. So you could see a lot of points getting put up in this game. So I would look towards the over in this game and towards taking the points with Dallas in this game because I don't think that I don't think that Cincinnati is in a good spot here, man. I don't really see that much of a reason for Cincinnati to show up here. I mean, they're big games that they have remaining on their schedule because they're a dead team. Now, their big games are these big games against division opponents, man. And they played that game against Pittsburgh where it was a close game. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that's going to beat you up physically. Coming off that game, I don't think they're in the best spot, man. I mean, they lost coming off that Baltimore game. They did win coming off the other Baltimore game, but it was against the New York Giants, who, I mean, they suck ass. So Cincinnati has not been good coming off of games with teams that play good defense, really. Against Kansas City, they lost the next game after that, too. So the Cincinnati team, I mean, I think they're in a bad spot. Coming off a Pittsburgh defense that beats you up physically, a big divisional game. Any of these games left on the schedule that Cincinnati is going to show up for, it's probably going to be these big divisional games like this. Even though it's Monday night, I don't think they're going to show up for an out-of-conference game, road out-of-conference game, which is the type of game that matters the least on your schedule against, the Dallas Cowboys, but it's Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys. So I really don't think the Bengals are going to show up for this. I think the public is looking at this and they're on the Bengals side because, it's Joe Burrow and this offense that can't be stopped against Cooper Rush. So obviously the public's just going to come in and take Cincinnati to outscore Dallas pretty much because you got the better quarterback there. But that's not always how it works, man. And I think Dallas actually has the better defense in this game. And that's how bad Cincinnati's defense is. So you're getting points at home with the better defense and maybe with the team that's going to actually be more motivated in Dallas here. So a lot of signs pointing to Dallas in this game. Cincinnati, again, could be in a letdown spot or a hangover spot coming off that big game against Pittsburgh where that was one of the games left that they wanted to win. You get some weird quotes coming out of their locker room, too, from like Joe Burrow and some of these other guys who are really just, it's like smacks of a team that's like kind of dead for the season. They do not seem to be gelling. They do not seem confident. It seems like some blame is being thrown around in various places. It does not seem good for Cincinnati, man. Dallas, on the other hand, they're actually starting to play a little bit better with Cooper Rush in there. I mean, he sucked for the first game, but after that, he actually did well, even though they got blasted by Houston on Monday night. Rush actually had a good game in that game. And speaking of rushing, Rico Dowdle has actually showed up the last couple of games, granted against bad defenses. Washington, the Giants aren't that bad. But what do you think Cincinnati is? They're a horrible defense. So do I think that Dallas is going to be able to move the ball against the Bengals defense? Yeah, I do. I think Dowdle should be able to have a decent game. I think Dallas should be able to get something going, both on the ground and through the air. Cooper Rush, I mean, he's getting some more confidence here. He's got a few games under his belt now. He's not that totally inept quarterback that we saw in that game against Philadelphia. And Philadelphia's defense is good. Houston's defense is pretty good, and he still put up a lot of yards in that game. And I know they were throwing the ball constantly because they were getting killed, but still. Rush, I think he'll be able to do something in this game, and Dallas has more rest here because they're coming off that Thursday game, Thanksgiving. And I know that Thanksgiving game, it's big because it's Thanksgiving, but Dallas, I mean, they always play on Thanksgiving. They usually win on Thanksgiving, I think more often than not, and they always beat the Giants. So because it was against the Giants with Drew Lock in there, I mean, do you think Dallas really is going to be in like a letdown spot or anything like that off of that? I don't think so. And I think because Cooper Rush is in there, I think that's going to prevent Dallas from actually being like a totally dead team here. With Cooper Rush there trying to play, probably trying to play with something to prove here, and because it's a Monday night game, I think Dallas is going to show up, and especially because they just performed so badly the other time they were on Monday night. They get 2 Monday night games this year, man, and this is the other one, and they were awful in the first one. So do you think they're going to want to kind of redeem themselves? I think they are. I think it's Monday night redemption for Dallas here because they looked like such ass here. This is their other shot to play well here. I expect Dallas to actually show up in this game, more so than Cincinnati will, for all those reasons. So, yeah, I mean, I would take the points with Dallas. It's close to being a play for me. Yeah, fuck you, just out. We'll see what happens, but I've been doing this for 20 years, man. I forgot to take I left the Rams play up there just for you, baby. Yeah, we'll see what actually happens here, but you don't win money by constantly just jumping on what the public thinks is going to happen here. You do not win money long term that way. Yes, it's because I lick toads and I'm high all the time. No, it's because women lick me to get high. The nickname actually came because I was short and I am still short. In high school, I was short and I had a bowl haircut, so I looked like Toad, the mushroom character from Mario. So it's a pretty cool nickname, actually, because he's a beloved character. So that's who I am. I'm Toad from Mario. That's all I got to say here, man. I know you guys are going to disagree with me, but come back and give me some of that hate after I wind up being right on. I think I'm going to be right on at least one of those two games, and hopefully it's going to be the one that I bet. But like I said, I've been doing this for 2 decades, man. I've only had one losing year over that entire span. This year could be a losing year. I know this year has been bad. College football was quite good this season until this week. I know it sucked, but NFL hasn't been good this year. I'm down in the NFL, but I'm going to try to make it up over the last few weeks here and hopefully have a slight winning year still this year. So that's the goal here. That's going to do it for me, man. I'm Tower Gang Toad. You can follow me on Twitter, patreon.com/Tower Gang for the most offensive podcast on the planet. If you want to support us, you get live pre-show, post-show. You get to hang out in the Telegram and mailbag us, which is like teabagging us. All right, just out. Thanks for showing up, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys showing up. Nate, was it only you two guys in the chat? I think maybe Charles was in here earlier. No, I don't see Charles in there, but he's in here a lot as well. Thanks for hanging out again. And also go follow flapper.net, FLAPPR.net. They are the purveyors of the world's finest smut blog, and they do write about NFL. They write about sports. They're a humorist blog where they have a humorous angle in everything that they publish, and they do talk about sports, beautiful women, some politics and history as well. Go check them out. I'm running the betting odds for the Milkers of the Year award, which it seems like the front runners right now to win the big prize. The whole thing is they are Sydney Sweeney and Nancy Mace, baby. They're at the top right now. We'll see what winds up happening. That's going to do it. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Hopefully I'm not being too much of a dick here, but I am really fucking angry about the way these bets went tonight. That's going to do it. Peace out, baby.